with all due respect.
All right, we wasted so much time with great content for this already. So I just hit
I know
record.
we need to hit go as soon as we get
I just
on.
need to like get it and hit go. So today, guys, we planned this yesterday.
I love that Mike doesn't have too much on
This
his
is
schedule.
yeah, with dude, I love it. Mike, I love you.
It's so fun.
I love Mike. Dude, we've had a great text thread since Mike's unemployed and not working yet. I'm like, I like this so far. Like Mike's gonna
I
get a
know.
job. I'm just gonna walk around and be like,
What do I do
where's
now?
Mike? Where's Mike?
I need 6 hours to respond to my text. I forgot why I
Actually,
asked it
when
in the
y'all were
first
texting
place.
me yesterday, I was lifting, so I had the most unproductive lift because in between
That happens to me all the time, yeah.
novels.
Turn it on do not disturb.
Yeah.
I know.
I just don't, dude. I can't tell you the last time I've turned my phone on.
What do you
Like
mean?
noises. Like
Oh yeah, agreed. It's always vibrate. Always.
yeah, it's no, nothing. No, not even vibrate. I don't.
You have it just on do not disturb.
I'll look down at it when I just turn the ringer off, turn the phone. I'll just look down and see if you text me.
All right, Gray. So note to self: if we're ever in trouble, don't call Josh because he's for sure not helping.
No, for sure. And he's only gonna answer the phone between like 9:30 and 10:30 and 1 and 2.
Yeah.
So other than that, I'm not calling him.
Yeah, I'm a great texter. I'm a great speak to text now. Speak to text.
I love speak
Dude,
to text.
like I'll be like, oh, I don't know if I want to text, blah, 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 right? But this is myth busting. I don't know what episode this will be, but these are great. Gray loves these. I feel like every time, like, what do we want to talk about this week? Rigger's like, myth busting.
Well, right? I think it's because of, like, we hear so much ridiculous shit on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And so the easiest way to talk about that is to kind of compile them all into their own episode and be like, these are all myths. Everything that just came out of your mouth is a myth. And we'll just give like that quick 1 to 2 sentence.
Well, people speak about things with such extreme confidence. Sometimes.
Yeah.
A lot of client, and I think this kind of came up with I put something in our threads yesterday about, I mean, people worry about the small minutia. Listen, is red dye bad for you? Probably, right? Like, have you seen research for red dye? Like, you shouldn't eat a glass of red dye, right?
Good.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen some great research connected to people where people say it helped with behaviors in kids where they got red dye out. Like, microplastics, but yeah, probably shouldn't, liquefy and drink, your Tupperware bowl, right? But, people read things and then they get freaked out about it. And I can't tell you how many situations where I've had people come up to me in a wellness conversation type and been like, oh, I just got to get this out of I can't believe anything that's red dye is gone. And I get it, but the kids still eat crappy. They don't like, we're missing out on all the big, Gray, you say, stepping over rocks to pick up pebbles.
Yeah.
And
it's boring. They miss the boring stuff.
It came with a client that was like, don't you think we should have the intro conversations with people should be around like metals in the foods and like, what was the other one? Metals in the foods and, plastic, like microplastics. Don't you think that's where we have intro to what should be with all your clients? I don't know. I don't. And here's why. 90% of people overconsume highly palatable, high calorie foods. They don't eat enough protein. They eat too many calories. The food quality sucks and they don't exercise. If you address those first, I mean, you probably, if you ate mostly plants and vegetables, plants and fruits, lean proteins, and single source carbs, don't you think you eliminate all those problems anyway?
Correct.
Right? Like, Mike, one thing, then we'll get into it. You sent me one thing a long time ago when I had people talking about hormones and things, and you said, listen, if a person in their diet cut out processed foods, we're talking about specific like hormones and PCOS or some hormone issues. got sunlight, cut out processed foods, cut out dairy, got 3 to 5 fruits and vegetables a day, 8 lean proteins, and got 8 to 9 hours of sleep a night, got sunlight for 30 minutes, that's probably going to take care of 90% of the people's problems. I mean, is that accurate? Don't you say that? Like,
yeah, I don't know if I would say take care of, but improve, I would say,
improve the issue. We have to start there with people. Like, I love people learning how to track calories, because then they eat less calories and they lose weight. Right? That's what most people come to us. So it kind of started with that. What it comes down to is people read an article, somebody sends them an article from the Washington Post that says, you know, creatine makes you bald, and all of a sudden, you know, you don't know what you're talking about, and all that. But
I've never heard that before.
It could be. I mean,
it's very common, right?
Yeah. I've never heard that.
Very, very common.
Right.
Shit, I still have my hair.
I had people come to me and been like, I had people literally message me and be like, oh my gosh, are you recommending 30 grams of creatine a day after that post? I said, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just saying there's some link to that, and, you know, some cognitive things like sleep deprivation. I'm telling you you're right. Like, geez, people.
Or it's just like those same people are like, oh, it's the creatine making you bald, and they drink 12 beers every 2 days. I'm like, I don't think it's the creatine.
So we're like, what, 10 minutes into this thing, 5 minutes into this thing? If you've made it this far, don't cut this off and take away this one key point.
Yeah.
Like, I always try to teach people principles rather than just tell them things. Because a lot of times in the fitness industry, we're looking for somebody to tell us, oh, this, not that. And then we're like, okay, it's this dichotomy, right and wrong. And as long as I do this, I know I'm okay. Here's the number one thing you can take away from this video. If someone is speaking with absolute certainty on any topic, they probably don't understand the nuances very well. Like, across the board on any topic. If you look at an expert in a subject matter, when they ask them a very like simple cut and dry question, they will get very, very into the weeds and very granular, because there's a huge amount of gray within that answer. So should you microwave Tupperware? No. Does that mean you can't store any foods in Tupperware ever as long as you don't heat them up? No. You see what I'm saying? Like, we can go and get into all the nebulous granular aspects of these things. But the thing people need to take away is, if you're listening to somebody who's only giving you these really dichotomous statements on yes or no across the board, that's a dangerous conversation to be entering into.
With any topic, really.
Yeah. Absolutely any topic, not just fitness, not just health. I'm talking about across the board for any topic.
I've seen people on social media pull in experts. Like, well, what do you think this guy says about it? And they'll tag him. And the guy replies back, it's like, well, man, it kind of depends on a lot, right? All right, let's hit the myths. Can we start with nutrition myths?
Yeah.
Sure. Carbs make you fat, Mike?
I hope not, because I eat a lot of them.
Yeah, 500 carbs a day. I hope the carbs don't make you fat, right?
So, yeah, and so you're going to encounter people on both sides of this equation. Here's the nuance. Are there some people that can handle way more carbohydrates than other people? 100%. Right. You're training more with a higher degree of volume. You're already leaner, which makes you more insulin sensitive. You're younger, you're more active, and you have a higher what's called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So all the things in your life besides training that you do that eat up calories. So if you're on your feet for your job, you park farther away at the grocery store, you walk more, you fidget throughout the day, you eat more protein, the thermic effect of food, all these things burn up more calories. Again, you and Gray already know this. But the point is, yes, there are some people that handle them better, also because of genetic reasons and hormonal reasons. If you have a higher degree of body fat percentage, in general, not always, but in general, you will not handle carbohydrates as well, because adipose tissue secretes pro-inflammatory cytokines called adipokines that will potentially drive insulin resistance. How can you check this? You can ask for a fasting serum insulin and see what that is. In general, the reference range is very large for most labs. You want to see it less than 10, usually. Once you get above 10, it's still considered pathologically normal, but you are starting to enter into more of a gray area for the insulin resistance piece.
My story on this is, we have a really good lunch at our school. It's a very good cafeteria. I get a cheeseburger and it has a bun on it, and somebody goes, "You eat carbs?" And I'm like, "I eat a lot of it." Right? It's just people speak about it like like Gary Taubes is their next door neighbor, right? Um, Eating late at night causes weight gain.
Real quick side note, people
I'm sorry.
don't listen to Gary Taubes or Gary.
Ooh, Mike,
Or Gary Burka, is that the other one you
bringing the
said?
heat.
No,
Don't
By the
Gary.
way, Gary Brecka has a BS in biology. He's not a physician. He, I can tell you, having graduated with many people with a BS in biology, you don't cover human physiology in a BS in biology. So here we are.
Dang, Mike
No,
throws some
Gary.
shade on Gary.
Only Gray. No, Gary.
Eating late at night causes weight gain.
Oh, I don't know how we're doing this. I didn't know if everybody's jumping around. Sorry.
No, I'm going to the next one. Eating late at night causes weight gain. That's the myth, right?
So
I hear people say it. I get intake forms and people say, "Well, I don't eat late at night because I don't want to turn to fat."
So I'll probably play a little devil's advocate just on a few of these because people will read these sort of arguments online outside of this podcast. There was probably in the last 5 years, there was some data that came out of a researcher's lab. His name was Dr. Sachin Panda. And so this research published showed that the amount of calories that were stored as fat rather than muscle changed relative to when they were eaten over the course of a day. And so then the idea of chrononutrition came out, meaning that the timing in which someone places their food dictates how that food is stored. That is probably something that you want to be thinking about, like under the broad umbrella of like first law of thermodynamics. Energy is either it's neither created nor destroyed, it's just shifted. And so within that law, people will always go back to that. If you're eating more calories than you burn, then you're going to gain weight. And if you're eating less calories than you burn, you're going to lose weight. That's like the hierarchy of the umbrella. Under that umbrella, part of that that like Israel talks about and all the guys at Renaissance Periodization is meal timing, 100%. So whether or not that actually plays a role in your overall weight loss or weight gain more than likely relates to, are you able to get in enough calories in that time window if you're trying to gain weight? And are you more than likely to overeat calories if you're trying to lose weight if you space your meals in a certain fashion? That's kind of like tier two. Again, thinking about principles. So tier one, total amount. Tier two, spacing of those things. Tier three, now you're going to get into more of the hormone piece of the puzzle in terms of the macro composition of the foods that you're actually eating, perhaps even the order of the foods that you're eating in the meal. There's another person that's super popular right now on social media called the glucose goddess, I think, something like that. And so she talks a lot about blood sugar, and blood sugar is her thing. And so she will tell people to eat your meal in the order of vegetables, protein, and carbohydrates. I don't know any human being, except for maybe Josh, like we were talking about earlier, that will eat only vegetables and then only carbohydrates and then only.
I do that.
Okay, so see what I'm
Well,
saying?
I don't like to mix foods normally unless it's a bowl, like
Right.
where I've already pre-mixed it.
Right.
So if it's on my plate, I always start with my vegetables, but that's because normally it's my favorite part. And then I eat my protein and then my carbs. But
And hey,
I'm just weird.
there's good data. I mean, there's good data showing that it probably does improve glucose response. But the issue that people then latch onto with that is, what's the real world applicability with that data? Okay, so your blood sugar response is better in that one meal at that one point in time.
Right.
So maybe that improves your A1C a little bit. Does this now translate to less inflammation or better body composition or better sleep? Show me the data. Like,
Yeah.
maybe it's
Yeah.
out there,
We
but my
can't
point
say
is that like there's a hierarchical structure here that when people are hearing these sound bites, you need to be thinking about, all right, if total calories are not in place, then this other piece down here doesn't matter as much.
there is, well, and I do want to say this: your heaviest meal should not be at night.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So, yes.
Things like that. But total calories mean more. Just because the food you eat at night doesn't get stored as fat, right?
Think of it from a sleep perspective versus a weight
I
perspective.
think I'd also say in general too, people are going in across the board. If people fuel themselves earlier in the day, there are probably a number of different components, from blood sugar regulation to energy to recovery from training. Probably a number of different factors that will improve if people eat more calories in the first half of the day. Currently, the American mindset is small breakfast, medium lunch, very large dinner. And in the literature, when they actually flipped that, they found in a number of different studies that played out with improved things like improved lipids, improved blood sugar, potentially even improvements to sleep, like you guys were talking about. And we don't know if that's because the food is earlier in the day or if it's just because less food now at dinner and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So it's not, is it because they ate a big breakfast or just didn't eat a big dinner?
Yeah. But we can say the concept, black and white, your food does not, the food you eat at night does not turn to fat, right?
Correct.
I like this one. I felt like this one's fading out. You guys might disagree. You need to detox with juice cleanses, or detoxing is good for you, or everybody should detox.
I still hear that all the time. I had a client ask me about that today.
I still see them
said,
still on social media, right?
no.
Detoxing, right?
Yeah.
This is the one that I do think has some nuance to it, because you hear people say, well, that's what your liver and kidneys are for. I kind of feel like there's some nuance to this one, Mike. Does everybody need to detox, or do we have to detox?
I think across the board, everyone is exposed to a number of different things that place a higher burden on both clearance through the liver and through the kidneys. And so the reason why these two organs get lumped together is excretion is going to come through kind of one of three ways of things you're exposed to. So you're either going to defecate it out, you're going to urinate it out, or you'll sweat it out. And so in general, with the idea that you have to juice cleanse or something like that, I would say that's by and large nonsense. Hydration is probably kind of the first step to make sure that things are moving efficiently through the kidneys. And these are just like normal byproducts of metabolism. So it's not like you're, sucking on a mercury thermometer and it breaks in your mouth or like something weird like that. It's just normally as your body's making energy, it has these metabolic byproducts you got to get rid of. And so I think the general concept of detox kind of got thrown under the bus because of this propagation on social media with the juice cleanses and those sort of things. I think if somebody has blood sugar issues, then drinking a whole bunch of juice to try and detox at the expense of the metabolic derangement that occurs from that is a terrible idea. Just as a broad spectrum statement. But I do think there are a huge amount of disservice that's done to this topic in the fitness industry in that, for example, you can look at someone's liver enzymes and they can be elevated for a wide variety of reasons, but sometimes this is due to excess damage to the organs themselves, meaning the liver, or you'll see things like creatinine go up, GFR go down when they're not very hydrated. So there are definitive markers that you can see change when things are added to increase the speed of clearance through the liver or through the kidneys. And there is good data showing certain compounds are nephroprotective to the kidneys. For example, NAC, we've talked about that in the past, N-acetylcysteine, that's nephroprotective. And then there are other compounds that are hepatoprotective. And so these can potentially augment or offset some of the damage to either of those organs. So I think you're spot on, Josh. There is definitely some nuance. Does everyone need to enter into this idea of everybody needs to detox? No, but does everyone need to be well hydrated every single day? Yes, for sure. Should everyone be eating, foods that are containing a wide variety of B vitamins that will help turn on glucuronidation and sulfuration and acetylation and methylation, all these processes in the liver? Yeah, for sure. So should people be eating cruciferous vegetables, a wide variety of different colored berries? All of those things are going to have the antioxidants and the polyphenols to support those subsystems. I don't know that you always have to necessarily detox, though, from the traditional mindset of taking something. Much of that process will occur from actual food phytochemicals.
Yeah, so what you're saying is if you eat healthy and exercise
and hydrate,
you're not toxing yourself in the first place. It's your body's doing its job. I think where these come from is we got pitched so long that, like, I've had people say this, hey Josh, I'm going to hire you as a coach, but I'm going to do a 10-day detox to kickstart my system before we start. I hear that. I also hear, listen, we've all seen the posts online of somebody selling something from like an MLM product that goes, Look at my clients before and after their 10-day detox. They lost 10 pounds of fat. They say that, right? 10 pounds of fat. What's 10 pounds of fat? 35,000 calories worth of change or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, that's a hell of a day thing. In 10 days, lose 10 pounds of fat. Like, that's incredible. You must be an alien. I think we hear that a lot enough for some people to say, pump the brakes, dude. Eat vegetables, drink water. Your liver and kidneys do the job. You don't need it. Don't buy it. Quit making dumb
Hmm.
people rich.
And you said sweating too, so I think it's really important to add that you need to be regularly sweating. Because I meet plenty of women, or I work with plenty of women, and they're like, I don't like to sweat. I don't want to sweat. I'm like, okay, you need to be sweating. It's important for you.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, like you brought up, Josh, a lot of these people will be like, "Oh, I feel so much better after this 10-day detox." But now we go back to the principles mindset of, simplistically speaking, we assume I took this product, now
Right.
I feel this outcome, so it must be because of the product. But at the same time, we discredit the fact that usually when somebody goes through one of these detoxes, they're going to change the way they eat. They're going to likely
Hmm.
increase the amount of hydration that they're taking in because of that product is usually in a powder format. So you have to do it in a shake format multiple times per day. So what works exceptionally better when it is well hydrated? All of the subsystems in your body. So we know we have a population in general that is chronically dehydrated, lives on caffeine, coffee, energy drinks, things that throw off
Alcohol.
electrolyte balance, alcohol, all those sort of things will mess with aldosterone, which then further changes sodium and potassium balance, which then changes water regulation in the system. So we need to kind of also then take a couple steps back, even in our own minds. Number one, rule out, is this just the general lifestyle changes that I made over the course of those 10 days, or is it only the product directly? And then we can never get rid of the placebo. So that's where I want people to, through this conversation, develop a healthy lens of skepticism of even their own experiences, because
Hmm.
sometimes we can't even disconnect ourselves from our own placebo or nocebo effect, negative of the placebo. So, I think detox is one of those things that, um, at least in the fitness community, it's kind of been written off, and in the medical community, it's been written off. But when you really start to kind of dive into the literature, it is very, very nuanced.
We've all seen people and companies sell a product and they're like, hey, take this product. Then they pump you a bunch of content around eat healthy this, eat that, get in a caloric deficit, get your sleep better, lift weights, take this product. And then they lose weight and they're like, see, this product works. And you're like, no,
Hmm.
you did everything else, right? I one time had a guy had his kid training with me and we did plyometrics and Vertimax and squats and the dad's like, yeah, we're gonna add leg extensions at the home gym a couple days a week. The kid's vertical leap went up like 4 inches. He's like, yeah, I really think adding those leg extensions worked. Okay, bro. I mean, I get it. I love you. Thank you for your money. Right.
We love to sell ourselves simple stories, right?
Hmm.
Yes. Um, Number four, fat is bad for you. Um, Too much bad food and fat and really crappy calories is bad for you, but healthy fats are not bad for you, actually quite good for you,
I
right?
think that's where people get confused though, because there are many different types of fats, and there's
Yeah.
obviously fats that are not as good for us and fats that are good for us. Same with carbs, same with protein. But I think the confusing thing is like, is it a healthy fat or is it a non-healthy
I don't
fat?
hear this one very much. I was very surprised when it came
I
to
don't
the
either, honestly.
top 10 nutrition ones. So we can be very short on that one. Fat as a macronutrient is not bad for you. In fact, I think there have been times in my own diet where my fat was too low,
Mm, I
right?
can feel it when mine is. I've told you guys before, I operate better when my fat's a little bit higher,
What percentage of your food is fat? What are you?
between 35 and 40%
Yeah,
typically.
I'm 25 to 30. I've been as low as 15.
Yeah.
I
Carbs.
have
I
found
feel
that
the effects of it. But I also eat a generally high, like I just gravitate towards foods that are higher in fats, but again, healthy fats.
I found that anecdotally with females, they tend to feel better on higher fats for a variety of
Yeah.
I would say
reasons.
from clients,
Hmm.
women can handle about 10% more fat.
Here's the way that you add one word to that statement and you can make it true. You just add the
Hmm.
word trans in front of fat. So
Oh,
Yep.
trans fats are bad for you. And if people don't know what trans fats are, look at the average Jif peanut butter label and it will say hydrogenated, whatever, soybean oil, cottonseed oil. Whenever
Right.
you hydrogenate,
Yeah.
whenever you hydrogenate a fat, you actually change the chemical structure of the carbon and the hydrogen bonds. And so I believe you actually add another double bond, if I'm not mistaken. And so when you do that, you then change the effects of that fat in the body. So if you're seeing any sort of hydrogenated oil in any product across the board, you'll see this in like flour tortillas, for example, certain types. You'll see this in peanut butter. Those are your two very common ones. But even in
Butter
baked
and
goods,
flour tortillas, that's like, I love them both.
yes. So you do have to do your homework and read labels. And in peanut butter, you can just get natural peanut butter. It should have two ingredients, peanuts and salt. That's it. That's it all. So that is your big takeaway. Yes, fat is not bad for you. Trans fats are 100% bad for you. There are some naturally occurring trans fats in ground beef and in full fat dairy. So just be aware. It's never on the label, but when you like go Googling down the internet rabbit hole, you may see some things written about that. Those are naturally occurring, totally different than the actual chemically modified hydrogenation of fats. So trans fats, anything hydrogenated, absolutely not. I will draw a hard line in the sand for that for sure.
Saying, we'll go on to the next one, but saying trans fats just sounds like hate speech in 2025.
Never
This
stop
this is
being
immediately demonetized on YouTube now.
Oh my, shadow banned. It'll kill it on X right now though. We still get this one. I get articles from people. Protein damages your kidneys. Again, I have people who say it like it's biblical truth, Mike. I've had parents send me articles. I don't know if I want my kid to get on that whey protein. Want to keep his kidneys healthy. I believe people who send it to me are the women that I say, you need to get about 100 grams of protein a day. They have a hard time getting 100 grams of protein a day. Now they're looking for some confirmation bias to why they shouldn't eat 100 grams of protein a day. So they find an article and then they send it to me. It goes, man, are you sure? I'm not sure. No, you're okay. The research I've seen, Mike, is it's taken up to 4 times body weight in grams of protein to have a negative effect. I would have to eat 800 grams of protein in a day, which about 400 would cause major digestive issues for me. So this is not true. There's been multiple studies. Again, this is right along for me with the creatine is bad for you thing. If anybody, please, and if anybody watches this, they're like, can you guys show me some more? I don't mind digging into articles and showing you some things, right? Like,
yeah.
This article's all over. There's never been a case in the history of the world of somebody who has a healthy kidney. I'm going to say healthy kidney, right? If you have kidney disease, it's a different story, right? Where somebody was in the emergency room because they overdosed on chicken and whey protein.
I will add to that because I just had a conversation with a woman this morning at Spenga who used to be one of my clients. You do definitely have a certain amount of protein that you can stomach at one given time. Like she told me that she accidentally put too much protein in her shake. She like overdosed on protein and had really bad digestive issues after. That will be the issue. It'll be a digestion issue more than anything. I know I have a window. I really can't tolerate more than like 65 to 70 grams of protein in a sitting. If I do any more than that, it's chaos. But that's my only add to that.
We should clarify both those statements. The first is that I never say never. So Josh, I don't know across the board if there hasn't been somebody
I want to see it though. Let me see it.
Not to your knowledge. Yeah.
Who knows? There may be a case study. And then in terms of your point, Gray, we should clarify in that as of right now, we don't know of a physiologic limit in
I
terms
just
of
think
what
individually.
right. We don't
Yeah.
know if there's a physiological limit. Obviously, there's a certain amount that a stomach volume can hold per person and the
Right.
amount of stretch capacity in that person's stomach. And then there's obviously a significant difference in the amount of hydrochloric acid that people make. And so that's going to make a significant difference in how much protein they can digest.
Right.
So I think we should kind of add that piece of nuance onto the conversation, but it's not because the person overdosed on the protein. It's
Right.
more so their digestive capacity doesn't allow them to have that much in a meal. That's not saying though that they couldn't physiologically adapt to that over time.
Right.
They just have to find where the line in the sand is, go up close to that, and then slowly push it. This is what competitive eaters do and how they can stretch their stomach to exhaling.
Oh yeah.
So
Because I think
again,
mine used to be, remember when I had those digestive issues a while ago and you put me on those enzymes? I think my old capacity for protein intake was probably like 40 or 45 grams. Now, like we had dinner last or 2 nights ago and it's 68 grams and I was fine. But that's probably about all I could stomach in a sitting.
I think
Although I've
people
done
also
eating
need to be
more.
careful too with this protein concept in that don't forget as a whole right now, the one of the narratives that's being pushed is for people to eat less meat because it's less environmentally friendly. So don't forget that when you're reading these articles, there is the potential that these articles either have a funding source from someone who is pushing a different agenda and as such wants that article written.
And they turned it into a Netflix documentary.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Josh, do you remember this
No,
is our
great. You're
spiel?
gonna say it, aren't you?
We got blocked. Who was
Me?
that?
There was
Meatless Monday.
there was a doctor
like a
in
few years
Colombia
ago.
who they had billboards up. Mike, this is great. Tried to get into schools. They tried to market it. They put I saw billboards, and when I'm riding down the street and see a billboard that says this, bro, I like came through the roof. It was Meatless Mondays.
Yeah,
Eat,
Meatless Mondays.
eatlessmeat.com, Meatless Mondays or something. Dude, I think if Gray lived in England, she would have been arrested for hate speech. Gray
Living Herbalife.
this lady on social media like my pit bull after a squirrel. Bro. Sharing, clipping, researching, tagging. And me as the friend, I'm like, I'm in with Gray. I think we might have single-handedly make this person very upset for the Meatless Monday. It was meat is better for the environment, save the environment. She was meeting to try to get it into public schools, that public schools didn't know meat. I'm like, oh my gosh. If this person believe if it's a religion for this it was awful. I mean, Gray went after her and would like take pictures of her meals like Meatless Monday. I'm gonna say more meat Monday. Take pictures of her meal and tag her. She got blocked. I got blocked. I haven't seen it up, so maybe we
Yeah, I
fought
think
the
it's
good fight.
over.
Or
If
maybe
you're
I mean it was horrible.
if somebody's listening to this and this makes you mad, I don't have anything against people wanting to eat less meat. That's
No,
fine.
not at all.
I don't.
But know the risk. There is a definite risk. You need to know what you're doing when you remove animal products in the diet. And number two is if you're really concerned about the cultural, societal impact of eating meat, you need to go look into regenerative farming. Like actually look into the concept of regenerative farming and how it is entirely 100% self-sustainable for the consumption of meat. And so
Yeah.
this idea that we should never be eating meat and there's no way we can withstand a civilization that does it, people need to research the opposite side of that viewpoint because that is fear and that is why it sells and is getting popular. And you need to go talk to a farmer who's a regenerative farmer, have a conversation with them versus just reading an article on the internet and see if it changes your perspective.
That poor lady.
People, and
I feel like
a
we
lot
should
of people don't
apologize.
know this. A lot of people don't know this or remember this, but I was vegetarian and pescatarian for 7 years. Like, talk to me about the environment, I get it. And then I started to have health issues. I started
Wow,
eating
okay.
meat again, feel a lot better. But that was just such a funny go back in time moment for the Meatless Monday. But either way, end of story. Protein's
Here's
good for you.
my 30-second take. If somebody tells me they don't want to eat meat because they feel a heart for the animals, That's your empathy. Fine. That doesn't bother me. I understand it. I would not want to kill and eat B, my dog. Right. If that's your connection, like I get it. One, don't force it on other people. Two, don't tell me that a baked potato with rice, a piece of fruit, and tofu is inherently more healthy than the same meal with chicken or steak. It's not. It's not inherently better just because of the tofu. But if you're emotional, that's fine.
Because Josh is not emotional, is what he's saying.
Not when it comes to food.
No, he's actually such a big baby back.
I'm a crier. I'm a crier. You must eat every 2 to 3 hours to boost metabolism. I know where this came from. You want me to tell you where I think it came from?
Sure.
I think it came from the bodybuilding world. The reason I think it came from the bodybuilding world is when 330-pound Igor from Tajikistan is competing at the Arnold, and he's 6'3", 300. You cannot eat enough calories if you eat 3 meals a day. Has anybody here ever tried to be over 4,000?
No, I can barely get over 3.
Horrible. It is sweat when you eat, miserable.
Yeah.
You have
if you're doing it right
every 2 hours. 3
And
hours.
for those who don't know what Josh is talking about, think about how you feel on Thanksgiving. Do that every day for like 5 years and then report back.
I did a 12. I mean, Mike, when you gave me enzymes one time, I did a little experiment around calorie and carb cycling. In my off days, I had low calories, no carbs. Lift days, medium calorie carbs, and then leg days were like 4,200, and my carbs were like 550. And Mike was like, "Hey, I'm gonna send you a link to get some things for digestion." I think that's where it came from.
Did you feel like it helped, by the way?
Yeah, for sure. Way less stomach bloat. Dude, I would sit there and be like, "Oh my God." But
yeah, that's how I was too.
I think that's where it came from, Mike. That's anecdotal. I don't know where it came from. I still have people that say, "Well, I'm going to eat every 2 hours to turn my body into a furnace to burn more." I had it said to me 48 hours ago.
I mean, I like from a thermic effect of food standpoint, I guess that's sure, but it's miserable.
The reason I would sweat when I ate was because that meal was 1,200 calories, and it was 8 o'clock.
I think the other thing that people associate is they think, oh, I have more energy, thus my metabolism is faster. And really what's happening is you're just balancing blood sugar better. And so because blood sugar dynamics are improved, you have a steady supply of fuel, which then necessitates a steady production of ATP via glycolysis, because some people don't do it super well through the Krebs cycle without getting too far into the weeds. And so because some people feel better on this carb dominant metabolism and glycolysis, that requires consistent food, especially if you're leaner and you don't have as many stored carbs. So that would probably be the first piece of the puzzle. And the second piece of the puzzle is that your perception, because it is that energy is a perception, your subjective perception of energy does not dictate your current metabolic rate. What does dictate your current metabolic rate is the amount of activity you have, the amount of circulating thyroid hormone that's going through your body, the amount of circulating anabolic hormones that are dictating building anabolism versus catabolism breakdown. So if somebody really is concerned about their metabolic health and their metabolism, the first thing you can do is run a full thyroid panel. And so if someone's metabolism is slow and their thyroid hormone is slow, giving them thyroid hormone will do way more for their metabolism than eating consistently.
Okay, so devil's advocate. Okay, devil's advocate.
But just because someone thinks they have a slow metabolism doesn't mean they're hypothyroid and their thyroid's slow. And just because they get on thyroid hormone doesn't mean they're going to lose weight.
And speeding up your metabolism and turning my body into a furnace doesn't happen by eating every 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours. So let me play devil's advocate. You get somebody that chugs coffee for breakfast, eats crackers and a soda for lunch, and eats 1,500 calories for breakfast, for dinner. They eat 2,000 calories a day. if you had them eat 2,000 calories a day into smaller meals with a bigger breakfast to help balance blood sugar, and their hormones improved and they started feeling better, would they lose weight better because the hormones were better, thus eating those meals throughout the day?
They would potentially lose weight, but not because of the hormones themselves. It would be because of the activities that the hormones allowed them to do. So let me
Got you.
explain.
Yep, I'm with you. Got you. Yep.
Because the blood sugar balance is stable, and this is why I go back to like those 10 key points. When you're doing those 10 things we talked about way back at the beginning of this video, you're going to give yourself more energy. You're going to recover faster for training. You're going to have more energy throughout the day from a blood sugar perspective. And then you're going to want to do more things. And so then when you do more things, you train harder, you more volume, it changes hypertrophy, all of that across the board. So it's a snowball effect, but it's you're setting up the correct hormonal cascades because of all the lifestyle factors. So for example, somebody says, well, I'm hypothyroid. I want to improve my thyroid function. So then we're going to get into, do we just give this person thyroid hormone? Well, you can start with that, but at the same time, they need all the necessary cofactors to convert T4 into T3. You got to downregulate the stress response because that stops the conversion of T4 into T3. You've got to improve their sunlight because we know vitamin D positively influences thyroid function and circulating ability of circulating T4 to actually bind to the necessary receptors and convert in the liver and the GI tract. So you can kind of go down the list on all these different simple things that people want to brush off, but those things directly affect all the hormone cascades that will give you the subjective things that you want in terms of energy, better skin, better recovery, better sleep, which will then allow you to do more of those things that give you the outcome you want, which is body composition change. And that's why I always start like high up. These are the principles you got to get in place. Once you do that, all the other cogs in the wheel will start to turn too.
I
But
have a client that did pretty much exactly that. Not the big dinner, like the 1,500 calorie dinner, but it was like sugary coffee for breakfast, really small lunch, really small dinner, like totally was not eating enough food. But she did get on thyroid medicine, and I had her kind of switch into obviously not the sugary coffee in the morning, but doing, if you want coffee, doing some protein with your coffee, eating about 4 meals every day. She lost like 30 pounds in 4 months. Like
what
it really did not
uh,
change that much besides getting more food.
what I think the saying is if you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner and it's 2,000 calories, and you eat 5 meals a day and it's 2,000 calories, your body's going to treat it the same. That's basically what I think the thing says. All right, we're at number 7. We're going to try and get through 10, y'all. Artificial sweeteners cause cancer. Or we can just say artificial sweeteners are bad for you.
Yeah, don't start throwing around the C word. That gets a little
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah,
My lawyer's going to call me in a second.
yeah, I'm just gonna say artificial sweeteners are bad for you, and you should just eat the regular soda, not the diet soda, right? Um,
This is
yeah,
still a
we're
really
already
big one. I
shadow
feel
banned
like
for the trans fats. Let's not get shadow banned for cancer and chemo, right? Um,
No comment, Your Honor.
I've kept my mouth shut. It's all Josh. It's all Josh.
all right, guys,
We're
I'll just
back
take the
here.
fall. I'll just take the fall. That's funny, right? What did somebody's told me one time I think it was Ray told me, he's like, just avoid the 2 C's, COVID and cancer, and you're going to be all right with all your content. Artificial sweetener is an interesting one. I did have a client that cut from regular Coke to Diet Coke. Started walking and added more water and lost like 60 pounds in a year. And that was really what he did was he started to diet soda and walking. He eventually went to diet soda, no diet soda, walking, more water, and then the third stage was diet soda, walking, more water, and quit eating fast food. He lost 60 pounds in a year, right? But there are people that cut back. But give us your take on artificial sweeteners. Is there some connection to behavioral issues with kids and cranked up artificial sweeteners? And is there a connection to artificial sweeteners and gut?
Right. Have you noticed that Josh asked like 17 questions? He's
Yes,
like,
I
all
got
right,
excited
go.
about this one. I got excited about this one. This one
So
excited.
what are we talking about?
Artificial sweetener.
So simple answer, just the first question. Are artificial sweeteners bad for you? Here is probably, I don't make many blanket statements, but as of right now, my consensus on this is just personal opinion. Take it for what you want. It's a grain of salt. But my consensus is if someone's going to overconsume sugar or overconsume artificial sweeteners, there is much more data showing that excess sugar consumption over time causes much more significant chronic disease than excess artificial sweeteners, like across the board, blanket statement.
Well,
Now,
do you think that's because it's easier to consume excess amounts of sugar versus excess amounts of artificial sugar?
love it. The nuance in that question. So there is some newer data now showing that in artificial sweeteners, there is potentially an insulin response, meaning
Yes.
the brain is registering something sweet. So it's then assuming it has a caloric load. So there's now some evidence I saw just yesterday. It hasn't been proven in a human model yet, but there's some evidence suggesting that when you turn on that insulin cascade, it is anabolic. So it leads to the kind of building response within the body across the board. And so there's a potential link, actually, an increased uptake in atherosclerosis. So the buildup of plaque from an anabolic standpoint in the vessel. Don't know if that's actually occurring in humans, but it's at least mechanistically possible. So again, small piece of the puzzle. If someone's not, go back to the first statement where I was talking about the difference in an obese individual and a metabolically healthy individual. A normal metabolically healthy individual, normal body weight, normal insulin sensitivity can probably handle a normal soda every once in a while. But I'm talking about the consumption of something on a daily basis. That in general will likely you'll get more of a benefit from the artificial sweeteners. But I think your thought process is a good one. Is it the sugar itself or just the fact that you're going to just drink more of it because it tastes better? I'd say maybe that's person dependent. Some people, it's like part of, if you go to the Coke Museum, like Coke is a part of people's life and it's like
Mhm.
what they associate with certain holidays or events and those sort of things. So I don't know if it like takes people back to those sort of circumstances and they get that kind of connection. If it's
Yeah.
emotional, don't know.
I'm
But
kind of I'm wondering, oh, I don't really drink like any sodas or anything with like artificial sweeteners or sugar. It's just I've never been a sweet person. Um, so I'm wondering, like, when it comes to the measurement, is there a higher amount of sugar like per gram in something like a Coke versus the artificial sweetener? Like, what is that measured in when it goes into a Diet Coke?
Um, I would say in general across the boards, artificial sweeteners are scientifically manufactured to be sweeter than sugar. And so you can look up the multiplicative values of some are like 600 times sweeter. Some of the ones that are plant-based are closer to the actual sweetness of sugar. Um, Monk fruit, stevia,
Yeah, I love
uh,
monk fruit.
those are closer in sweetness. But like, have you ever had like certain diet sodas and you're like, whoa, this is like sickeningly sweet? It's because of the sweetener that they chose. And
Yeah.
so, um, in
I just feel like
general,
I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say, I feel like the things that have a high amount of sugar, like they truly have a shit ton of sugar in them, you know? So it's like eating a cup of ice cream. Well, it's really easy to go over on your sugars for the day because that cup of ice cream has what, like 40 grams of sugar to it. Whereas I feel like it might be a little harder to do 40 grams of artificial sugar or artificial sweetener. Does that
Yeah,
make
I think,
sense?
well, but I think too, I see the comparison you're drawing. Um, I don't know that if you did 40 grams of artificial sweetener, I don't think it's a one-to-one comparison with
Right. Okay.
40 grams of
Yeah.
sugar in terms of the potential chemical load versus the metabolic load. Because when you look at the data on artificial sweeteners being bad for someone, the amount that they would have to consume is an
There's a lot.
astronomically high.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's.
Right.
I think the one I saw, um, was equivalent to like 18 to 20 Diet Dr. Peppers a day.
That's kind of what I was asking. Like you would
Yeah,
have to eat a ton of artificial sugar and sweetener, I mean, to kind of compare to actually getting, you know, because isn't the recommendation
yeah.
for
It was done on
total sugar or
rats.
added sugar like 25 grams per
It was
day?
done on rats.
It's really easy to get that high.
It was done on rats, and it was like 18, equivalent to 18 diet sodas a day
Yeah.
Right.
to have
Yeah.
any sort of issues. And then there's causation correlation on that. I just know when you tell, I've had people say to me, I just drink Diet Coke because I just don't want those. I just drink regular Coke because I don't want that sweetener in there.
All
I like
right,
it. That's
just drink the
American.
sugar.
And I think we can always go back to like the hierarchy. So in an ideal world, tier one, don't drink either. But tier
Yeah.
two, what's better for you? An occasional diet soda or an occasional regular soda? If you're a normal metabolically healthy person, you don't really care about your body composition, you can do either one. It
Yeah.
probably doesn't matter. If you
Mhm.
are body composition concerned, yeah, do diet. There's probably not going to be a negative outcome. If you're constantly drinking soda, which one should you choose? And you're metabolically unhealthy, as of right now, diet's probably the winner.
Mhm.
Guys, I had a client that loved Coke. He drank 1 Coke a day. He counted it in his macros. He was at a 25% deficit with it. It was worth it for him. It gave him peace of mind. He lost weight. Right. Organic food is always healthier. Okay. They threw the word always out there. Um, I have the thing. I never listen to somebody who says always because I like being right. Sounds funny. I
An
never.
ass.
Right.
I
Yeah.
love being an ass.
Yeah. Yeah. I never listen to somebody that says always. Right. Um,
But always listen to Josh.
but always
Yes,
listen to me.
for sure.
Yes. Um, organic doesn't necessarily always mean healthier, right? Organic doesn't always mean to me. I just tell people walk down the organic aisle and see the things that they're calling organic because it's processed. Processed is hard to be organic. I don't know. Just
I I think this one's a huge one right now too because there's such a push to eat organic food. Again, that was a thing I feel like maybe 6 or 10 years ago,
is it
and it's
marketing?
kind of
Is it a marketing?
cycling again. I
Is
think
it a
with
marketing
what's
gimmick?
currently going on, yeah, but I think it's also what's currently going on with like our health world.
Mm.
Um, so this is even interesting to me because when you go through your precision nutrition certification, it's like organic is not better than regular, and you're also going to spend more money on
RFK
the
says to eat more
organic.
organic food.
Yeah. So no, I'm interested in this one too.
Hit it, Mike.
Sorry.
Your turn.
So I think the number one priority is if someone has additional resources to devote towards this conversation, they should be thinking about it. If you're someone who's
Mhm.
struggling to make ends meet and you don't have enough funds to buy a wide variety of fruits and vegetables, ignore this conversation entirely. So
Yeah.
if you're like, well, I can't really afford the raspberries, so should I not eat the blueberries so that I can get the organic raspberries? No, you should buy the blueberries and the strawberries and not worry about organic or non-organic raspberries. So that's priority
Mhm.
number one. Eat the widest variety of fruits and vegetables possible within your budget. So then priority number two is with the organic versus non-organic conversation, are there, as a general principle, are there certain compounds that we are actively spraying on our crops in the United States that have
Mm.
been banned in other countries because there is good data showing that it does affect different aspects of the endocrine system? Yes, 1000% yes. People
Zach
can
Bush, right? Zach Bush.
People can go
Mhm.
look up atrazine. People can go look up glyphosate, which is the one everybody knows about, but
Roundup.
atrazine is a very common one. It's a known estrogen mimicker or xenoestrogen, known effects in offspring in terms of changing the testosterone in developing males. So these are things that are currently on your crops that you're eating right now. Washing them does not remove them. So I'll just make that blanket statement. There is some pesticide residue that becomes incorporated into the actual flesh of the fruits and vegetables, specifically what we're talking about.
Originally developed to be an antibiotic, correct?
Glyphosate?
Yes.
Glyphosate was yes, yes.
Originally developed to be an
So that being said, the next tier one is again, eat the widest variety of fruits and vegetables possible. That means every single week you go to the grocery store, you buy different fruits and vegetables. That's another general principle people should take away. Second tier is if somebody's like, well, I'm kind of concerned about this pesticide thing. It's still on the skin. So what do I do? This is your second cheapest route. So if you're just going to buy regular everything, go look up Environmental Working Group, Clean 15, and Dirty Dozen. So these are the
Yeah.
fruits and vegetables that have the highest pesticide residues. They're going to be things grown close to the ground with very thin skin. Strawberries, spinach, peaches, grapes. Those are things that now we have good literature showing if you soak them in baking soda for less than 5 minutes, it removes roughly 70 to 80%, 70 to 80% of pesticide residues from the skin. So simple, easy, readily accessible for everybody. We can all go get baking soda. We can all soak our produce. Will it remove all of it? No, but 70 to 80% is a pretty good amount. And I think the study was done in apples, which have a pretty thin skin. So again, it will be equivalent. But if you look at that's just the dirty dozen. Those are the ones you want to soak in your baking soda. The clean 15 are going to be those that have really thick skin. So watermelon, avocados, bananas. Again, just rinse those off just to make sure they don't have any dirt when you bring them home, so to speak. But you don't have to buy organic watermelons or cantaloupes or anything like that. So that's kind of tier 2. And then tier 3 is if you want to buy organic produce and you're concerned about the cost, buy the Dirty Dozen organic. So for example, I try to buy organic spinach if I eat spinach, just as a general rule of thumb, because I'm aware of that data on pesticide residues. Is there any pesticide that is knowingly good for humans and has a benefit to them when consumed? No, it doesn't exist. That's not the point of a pesticide. So the dose makes the poison with these sort of things. And most of these compounds are studied in isolation, meaning if you have a crop that is sprayed with multiple compounds, there is the concept of bioaccumulation in which one substance doesn't cause harm, but when accumulated with multiple other substances, we don't know if this causes additional harm. And so that's a concept of toxicology that isn't commonly talked about, but we need to be thinking about this. So that's kind of tier 4. Buy the Dirty Dozen, skip the clean 15 organic. And so if you can, even better, go find a local strawberry farmer, ask him what he sprays on his crop. He should tell you. So like last year, I bought like 10 pounds of strawberries and went and picked them myself because I found a local strawberry field that didn't spray anything on their crops. So local farmers markets, get connected to your community. This is how we branch out this bigger conversation. And then the final tier, if you have money to throw at it, sure, buy organic. I do think there's probably going to be some good data developed in the future if we don't change our current pesticide practices in America, showing that there's likely a reduced exposure to certain compounds that have known health risks. Whether or not that carries reduced risk of disease over a person's lifetime, we can't correlate it, but there's at least reduced exposure.
My takeaway from this kind of conversation is kind of what I've done with my like personal household product usage. It's like start at things that are going to be easier for you to start at. So like clean 15, dirty dozen, that can be something that's easier to start at. We personally like to get our meat really fresh. We don't just like go to Publix or Walmart to get our meat, and we always wash vegetables and fruits and things like that. But as always, when you're removing those like dirty or toxic things in the house or in your foods, it's like start where you can and then slowly add on to it so you're not overwhelming yourself, because I think it's an overwhelming conversation.
Yes, this is very overwhelming, right? And you can spend a lot of money. I do think you can be perfectly healthy human being eating non-organic foods. I don't think we're going to avoid. So I'm going to throw this out. There's a YouTube page called After School, after SKOOL. Okay. If you really want to go down the rabbit hole, I have jumped on that before and lost my mind in existentialism for hours.
I think I sent you that originally. Sorry, Josh.
Media, yes.
Don't do that to him.
Because I leaned into like media propaganda, and all of a sudden I just went hours into just down this Alan Watts road of just ridiculously. But Zach Bush is a sort of like triple board certified physician. Used to actually study and develop chemo drugs, I believe. He has left that, and now he's working on the other side of the aisle. I hate to say the good guys, but kind of you want to say the good guys.
He's working with regenerative farmers.
So, and he has about a 30-minute presentation where he goes over the effects of food farming. It's a lot. He does say something in there that he goes, it all narrows down to inflammation. I love that conversation about inflammation. It is a lot to take in. I showed it to a group of high schoolers before, and they went home and told their parents, like, I don't think I'm ever going to eat shit. Like, we got to figure out what's going on in our home. So there is some fear tactic to that thing. But the conversation around crop rotating, glyphosate, Roundup. 70% of the glyphosate ends up in the Mississippi River. There's a really good conversation he has. He throws some stats out there that I kind of refute a little bit of the stats. Like I'm like, I need to look more into that. But he's a smart guy. That 30-minute clip will make you realize where glyphosate came from, who originated it, why they originated it, why petroleum was involved, how it all connected to the petroleum industry. It can make you be a little kooky, right? Because when I told you I showed that to high schoolers, you're like, wow, that's deep, right? But it's a really good video. And it helps you understand some awareness.
Big takeaway for people too is if you're not eating fruits and vegetables, the organic versus non-organic conversation doesn't even matter. Yeah. You got to eat more of them before you even worry about this nonsense.
Yeah. Guys, we made it through 8. I'm proud of ourselves.
I know.
We made it through 8 of the 10. This was just nutrition. Do you think we could do a fitness one?
Yeah.
Get a nutrition one. I'd really like to do a fitness one, a workout one, right? Because I think there's a lot of myths around workouts, not just nutrition. I think we focus on nutrition because I think that's the struggle, the major struggle for most people is their food. Working out, I feel is easier for people. Maybe I'm biased in saying that, right?
I think that's probably mostly true. I'd say like majority of people don't struggle as much with exercise as they do with food. Food's a lot more accessible, right? Like it's easier for you to be bad at food.
If we can do an exercise one too, I do get exercise myths, right? We can name a bunch. But I think the 8 we covered today, just so people know, the other 2 were that we were going to cover is fresh is always better for you than frozen foods. And we can address that if somebody has a question about it. Maybe we'll put it in a post in the group. And eggs are bad for you. Whole eggs are bad for you. Egg yolk is bad for you. And we can cover that if we want. Again, it's there's some nuances in all of that.
Hint, dietary cholesterol does not equate to blood cholesterol.
Blood cholesterol, yes. So I think we did good. We got 8 of the 10. Can we do it? Maybe we'll talk about scheduling a fitness one. I'll put this in the group. I'll make a little post that we did this. I think this is good to have because, I mean, Mike, you made the comment earlier in our group text. You're a little bit out of the conversations, what people talk about. We're a little bit in the day-to-day. Are you surprised by any of the things we brought up? Because I did some research to find out what myths people are asking about online the most. And these were 8 of the top 10. Did anything shock you?
Old habits die hard.
Okay, so that's enough.
I mean, it has been. It's been discussed for so long, but again, I think it's like people get bored of the boring. It's like I'm bored of lifting weights and eating dietary diversity and sleeping well and managing my stress. What else can I attack?
Yeah, I feel that's a personality thing. I don't mind repetition and boredom. I can go back to being a kid where repetition and routine was always kind of part of something that comforted me. So doing it over and over again is not hard. Yeah. So
well, I just think people need to remember that there's a way to make it sparkly and glamorous inside of the boring. Like how you do your training program can always get better. Your food can be healthy and not bad. Sleep, when you actually get good sleep, you're going to feel like a rock star, So
well, I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
With all due respect.